Ladies and gentlemen, if you are not fired up for your Thursday, if you're not juiced out of your mind for Ohio State, Minnesota, well, this guy can solve that problem for you right here. Anthony Schlegel, it's the podcast daily for Thursday. What's up, Schlegs?
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? Awesome. Great to be with you, buddy.
All right. Great to be back, as always, for another conversation with Schlegs to get ready. And I cannot believe that it's already mid-November.
Wow.
There's only 2 regular season games left, Schlegs.
Yeah.
I don't know. Has it felt like this season has gone fast for you? Like, this one's flown by. A lot of other Ohio State years, it's a marathon. This one has actually felt like a sprint.
Yeah, it's gone by extremely fast. It's gone by extremely fast for me because I've been training my kids and training my son's baseball team every morning, and it's been awesome. But it's been fun to watch this team. Right, it's been fun to go back through the notes and just kind of see the things that we were wanting to happen. And we wanted to see a progression, and we wanted to see, the offensive line play pick up. We want to see Kyle pick up. And again, you're going to have – not everybody's going to be perfect all the time. The standard at Ohio State is unfathomable sometimes. But you know what, though? That's why you go to Ohio State. I mean, it's the same stuff when you're in the league. If you're on a really good team in the league, or even if you're not good, right? They still expect you to win. They still expect you to put out a good product. But the standard is the standard here. I think we've seen – that growth. And though Kyle 2 games prior to Michigan, or a game prior to Michigan State, was not his best game, but you saw that you're able to pull it out, underperform offensively, but still have a 19-point win on the road against a physical team at Rutgers, who then, I didn't see that happening, getting blanked by Iowa 22-0, but it happened, right? And you saw the physicality of the 3-game stretch from a running perspective of Penn State, Wisconsin, and Rutgers, and guys out, but other guys stepping in this week. And you've seen where we've held guys back that probably could have played, but didn't need to play. And that goes into the depth that we have and the development that our coaches are doing within the Woody. So, there's a lot of good things. Everybody's taking a step, one game at a time approach of just getting better. We've seen the defense, and honestly, probably one of my favorite things that I've witnessed, and again, because I'm a defensive guy, is the way that Knowles, and hey, side nugget, none of it matters unless it's November 25th.
Right.
But we saw things last year of big plays happening throughout the season, and really, they've had one play over 40 yards this year, and that was on the Fumblerooski, tip of the cap, but the defense plays every down. They sometimes bend, they don't break. And that's a mentality. And I think Knowles has really seen what his role is, and that is setting our offense and the playmakers that are there up for success by only giving up a field goal, and then also field position and how good they've been. Remember last year, they were in the hundreds in college football in red zone defense, giving up touchdowns. This year, I don't necessarily know the stat, but I know it has to be right up there. I mean, they're giving up less than 10 points a game, but most importantly, in the red zone, they're giving up field goals, not touchdowns. And that is what allows our offense, so it might not be to the standard that we've seen in the past at Ohio State, the opportunity to still go out there and beat good teams by multiple, by double digits.
Yeah, Schlegs, I mean, that feels like the biggest difference for getting ready for November 25th. And
for sure.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about Minnesota and getting through the last week, the penultimate week of the regular season, and focus, but that does feel like the difference as you're getting ready for 9 days from now, is that Michigan's offense, Penn State, we know how good their defense is, but I don't know that that was a lot of encouraging stuff from the Wolverines on offense. And if Ohio State is much more equipped to batten down the hatches in the red zone, if they're stronger against the rush, if that secondary is dramatically improved from a year ago, which I think we can agree all of those things are true, that seems like it bodes pretty well for the Buckeyes. Now, you still have to actually go out and do it in Ann Arbor.
Right, it's on the road.
But,
yeah,
but
there's some things, and we knew this from Penn State. I mean, again, they have a freshman quarterback, and to play against great defenses, you got to be able to vertical passing, and it doesn't necessarily mean down the field shots. It could be that play off of a play action. It could just be passes longer than 15 yards, where his average completion in the Penn State Michigan game was 3.2. That's not going to get it done, right? Those are checkdowns. Those are, short intermediate passes that aren't going to allow you the safeties to play back. They're just going to they're going to come up and play the run. Now, in that game versus Penn State, they still rushed for 227 yards. I thought, they basically owned that game. They won by 9. We won by 8. But, it does bode well for the things for us offensively versus their defense because we have weapons. And that's the equalizer of Ohio State and kind of everybody else, is that we have those threats. And if our offensive line can do a good job in keeping Kyle clean, and we'll see that in Minnesota as one of the difference makers because they have 2 really good pass rushers. But that's something that bodes well, along with Trevion being healthy and Stover being healthy, and you see that. And again, Tommy coming back and Proctor coming back, and we don't know about Latham because I don't know what his injury is, but it seems like it's going to be a little bit longer one. But those 2 coming back, especially for that game, will be significant. And Ohio State has put themselves in a position where we don't have to rapidly get guys back in order to compete. And you see that, right now Texas is a 1-loss team, but they just lost their number 1 running back who filled in really nice for Bijan Robinson the year prior. He had over 1,100 yards rushing, 10 touchdowns, I believe, something like that. And he's out with an ACL injury. Who's going to step up for them? Well, we know that we have some people that can step up. They're not necessarily Trevion Henderson, but they still allow the offense to flow and can get the job done. And part of that is also because of, and we'll just talk about it since I'm in it, what Ryan has adapted to. Like this year, you go through camp, you go through spring football, you go through camp, and you think you got what you got. And then as the year progresses, the one thing I think I've seen our coaching staff do is they have adjusted to the talent. Trevion does a significantly better job when he has more time because he has great vision. And by putting him behind the quarterback, it allows him 2 more yards to see where the cutback is, which helps the offensive line. When he's at 5 and right next to the quarterback, that vision's closer. We saw this in the past with our linebackers. I'm talking years before, where our linebackers were at 3.5 yards. That's way too close to be able to see everything, in my honest opinion. I always like to play linebacker anywhere between 4.5 and 5.5 yards, predicated upon down and distance. Why? It allows you to have vision. So, we're seeing some of those things. We're seeing different personnel packages and formations out of the same ones that allow us to mix in tempo when we want because we feel we have a competitive advantage with what they have on defense. And that's how you've seen tempo being utilized with this offense. We had a great question on the Barbie Carpenter show as to what does this team really do well? And I think we're not just a tempo team. You remember Oregon of 14 where it was every 16 seconds we're running a play. That's not us because that puts your defense at a competitive disadvantage because if you go 3 and out and you only took off less than a minute on the clock, they're going to go right back out there and be tired. So we kind of understand when we could sprinkle tempo in, when we can go fast, but then also when we need to adjust, change personnel to get the play calls that Ryan wants in. So we can do a lot of it all. We saw, that there's that end around with Marvin Harrison Jr. We had 12 personnel. We had 2 tight ends and Stover was off the ball. Yeah, G. Scott, who was inside between Cade and the tackle. And we ran almost like a counter with the end around with Marvin, but he pivoted, was the lead blocker, and Cade was allowed to seal the edge simply because of his split and his width on it. Great play. That's something that people have. And I guarantee you off of that same deal, there's a passing combination off of it, right? It's predicated upon what they're playing in the back end. Those are all great things that I see that I can't wait to watch like mature, not necessarily in the Minnesota game, but for the game against Michigan.
Schlegs, so I've been thinking about that a lot, and you detailed because you spend so much time, coaches do, in March and April preparing, figuring out what the personnel does, training camp, you're installing all that, you're getting ready. But then Ohio State's had to adjust. I don't think that they're running the same rushing attack that they envisioned in August. And coaches a lot of times have a lot of pride and ego involved, and this is what we want to do. This is our
what we
scheme.
do. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think that you've been around a ton of coaches. How many do you think, I don't know, it's not fair to put a number on it maybe. Like, is it uncommon to make some of the adjustments in season the way Ohio State has?
All right, so start with defense. Defensively, no, because complementary football that we talk about all the time is knowing what you guys do well. Now, when you're at Oklahoma State and you're playing against teams that are probably genetically superior than you, recruiting wise, you might have to dial up more blitzes and get home and be more opportunistic and takeovers and more risky, right?
Mhm.
Controlled risk, but still risk nonetheless, because you have to go get multiple turnovers, right, against a quarterback.
Mhm.
But at Ohio State, and now especially with a more veteran secondary, that I just think they understand the defense better, and then playing a little bit more zone than we've had in the past, and guys continue to get better as they play zone. You know, that's an adjustment that you got to make, because that's what allows your team to have success. And every team's different year in and year out. And that's where I think great coaches come in and have to make the adjustment as to what puts our team, not necessarily me or the stat line or whatever, in the best position possible.
Mhm.
You know, so defensively, I've seen it and I like it. And I think that bodes well. That's kind of more of like how we were in the early 2000s with D'Antonio and Haycock and Fickle. It was that, right? It was Saban's defense, a lot of zone, a lot of fire zone, 3 under, 3 deep, bringing pressure that way when you had to, but you still rallied to the football and lived to play another down, a new set of chains, et cetera, should they get it.
Mhm.
And we've seen that defensively. And then with that, we've been able to roll in guys. I saw a great stat where Sonny Styles is the number one defensive back in the country. Now, the PFF and all that stuff, that really doesn't matter, but it was a good stat nonetheless. But he's the number one DB against the run. And he's a 6'4", really long, fast guy that's able to come down in the box. But, you know, that would have been for us like Nate Sally. Nate Sally was a really physical guy like that. Dante Whitner was our star, which is kind of what Hancock does. And he was very aggressive against the run. But it was just knowing what your personnel does. And we saw that even on that one play, I believe it was Hancock, that came up and they saw the quarterback run. I think it was on 3rd down and short. And he came up and he was the outside fit. He hit it. Quarterback bounced. Boom. Burke came up, made a tackle for loss, turned it into a 58-yard field goal that they missed. Right? Great plays, but guys understanding where their fits and being able to go do that. And there was a play in there where I thought there was a safety that was inside that should have been outside. And guess what? It wasn't a huge play though, right? It was a first down. I think they ended up getting like 15 yards on the run, but it's lived to play another down as opposed to where you're playing man and guys are running with their men downfield and their back is to the football. Now that 15-yard run turns into a 30-yard run. Very, very different. So, you know, you're just seeing the maturity and the growth, not only from the players, but also from the coaching staff as to knowing the job that you have to do for this particular team. Right. So that's why really, what are your KPIs? And in defense, it's 3rd down percentage. Obviously it's points. And I mean, I thought it would change with college football as to where it is, but points allowed, our goal was always less than 13. Well, they've done that. I mean, almost every single game, they're giving up 9.9 on average. I mean, that's phenomenal in today's football. But then to me, it would be red zone defense. And we obviously want takeaways, but red zone defense 100% correlates to points allowed. And so I just think that they've grown tremendously. Everybody involved, coaches and players on the defensive side of the ball. Then offensively, you know, you go in and you're like, okay, we have the stable of running. And I tell you what, guys, here's the other thing too. Recruiting plays such a significant role in this as far as the depth that it's like, all right, what do all these guys kind of do? Well, this is the formation that they all kind of do well. So we run that. But then when it's like, man, this guy is just setting himself apart, which I think in that group Trevion has, it's like, what allows him to be at his best? And his best is being 7 yards off the ball behind the quarterback. And that really is a difficult read too now because of, from a linebacker's perspective, because he's back there. So that means I have to get a little bit wider. So if I'm playing a straight up 3 technique and he's right back there, if he steps away, like what is he really doing? Is it counter? But then my eyes have to go to the backside guard or however they're going to pull that to see where it's going. So it's a little bit different vision from that perspective, but it definitely helps, and it helps him. And then also utilizing him out of the backfield as a check down or to the flat, or even we saw where he can line up when we get him caught in the personnel that we want to be able to go and match up 1v1 on a linebacker. He's going to win that battle. We saw where he missed a touchdown. And there was two plays in that game where I believe Kyle could have had touchdowns to people that were drops. So anyways, it just goes to show that, and I'm happy for our coaches that they've been able to see and change to what our personnel does best.
Mm-hmm. So when you're talking about making sure that you understand the job and the task at hand, Schlegs, you've been a player, you've been a coach the week before the game. How difficult is it to make sure that for this version of the Buckeyes, or for when you went through this senior day, week before home game, any of the other circumstances, everybody wants to play the game and you know that it's close. We've seen some performances from Ohio State like, all right, let's just sleepwalk through it. So others, like Michigan State a couple of years ago, they just beat the brakes off of them and tried to build some momentum. It's like there's no like pattern or every year is the same when you're trying to get ready for the game. But I imagine that in the locker room, it is difficult to not start looking ahead. Or is it?
I mean, that goes into training, that goes into language. Language drives change. And when it's just, the best part about going 10-0 is the chance to go 11-0. It's one game at a time, right? You can't get to the 12th game unless you take care of the 11th game. And they understand that. I mean, that's life. I mean, that's something that remember, we're also in the business of taking young men and turning them into men. And these are just life lessons that we're teaching them on a daily basis. So part of this is, senior day, and you're also making them aware of all the things that transpire on senior day. And you're trying to relieve some of those things by, hey, make sure you have great communication with your family. Make sure you know how many tickets you need, et cetera, et cetera. Understand the task at hand. They got to control. Like the most difficult part about this week in particular is enjoying the moment and then being able to flip the script and then go play. I thought that Urban really did a nice job of this when he talked about work the game and then relax, right? So there are times on Friday where you go in and you watch film with a coach, or you go through a walkthrough and you work the game, right? You're mentally locked in to the game. And then you would go and unwind and eat and fellowship and do things. And then they would have another meeting where you would have to go in and lock in and work the game. I think working the game, especially like throughout the week, but that's an all year thing where you're constantly training that mentality to be able to go work the game and then relax, and then work the game and then relax. And so, with them, it's like, who's coming to the game? Where do I line up? How do I soak in that this is the last time that I'm going to run out of that tunnel as a senior or as a junior, quite frankly, because guys are going to be going to the league, right? So it's their last one. So how do I take all of that, enjoy it, live in the moment, and then get off the field and then go out there and play fast from the jump? That's also where the underclassmen have to do a really nice job of stepping up, like just going out there and perform. Yeah. Because we're so goal oriented and mission focused. I asked my wife, I still am at 42. It's just the nature of how God made us. But on a game like this is where it really has to, manifest itself so you can go out there and accomplish the mission. Now, I will say this too, because of all the outside noise from the media and everything that's happening up in Ann Arbor, you just have to really do a good job on focusing and controlling what you can control. And on a week like this, it's taking care of your body, knowing the things that are allow you to be at max capacity on Saturday, and that routine, and what we do as a sports performance staff about articulating and teaching our kids, whether you call it, training acumen or physical literacy. It's about knowing your body and the things that you need to make sure that you're at max capacity for Saturday and forward, right? Because, you can't overlook Minnesota. You still got to go out there and perform at your highest level. So what are the things that allow you to do that? First off, it's sleeping, it's eating, it's hydrating, right? Like those are the things, right? A lot of people talk about it. Well, are they overtrained or whatever? No, man, they're probably underslept, undernutritioned, underhydrated. Like those are the real factors that go into probably overtraining more so than actual physical training. But as you continue to educate, as you continue to teach, as you continue to give ownership to the players as to what do they personally need, because they're all very different. Here are the things that you need to be at max capacity. Go do them. And that's the beauty of how they've set up Mick Marotti and everybody that's involved in the Woody is all of those things that they need to be at max capacity are at their disposal in the building. They don't have to leave and go do other things, right? It's all right there, and they can help guide them and help focus them if they need it on those. The biggest ones would be for a game like this, even the younger guys, right? Because they're not doing the senior day. They have to wait a little bit. So, and within the building itself, you can get caught up in the excitement as to what's going to transpire in 2 weeks. Like that's the hardest part, And I kind of view it like even when you're before a game, how I did it was, I would get there. I listened to Braveheart soundtrack, and I believe it was 18 songs. But I would go in and I would take a nap. Literally, I would just like fall asleep and take a nap. And then I would get up and I would go get in the hot tub that was in there, like kind of quick, put some other hot packs on my body, and I would go over my tip sheets and everything. And I just like I could actually bring those up mentally and just see exactly what I wrote down from those tip sheets. And I just kept going over that. And then I put my pads on, then you go warm up, then you go outside, you do your thing. Then I come back and I put the headset back on and I go over my tip sheet. I didn't like a lot of talking. I didn't like a lot of the other loud music. I was just like, this was my routine. And then you go out and then you play, and then you just got to allow your eyes to validate all of the study and preparation that you put into it. And then you make adjustments, but you make those adjustments because everybody on your defensive side of the ball, because all week we've been watching film together. Now we have great communication within the game, and that just allows you to play fast. And that's part of it, So it's just one game at a time. Focus on your routine. The coaches are there to guide you, and then go out there and accomplish the mission. And the mission literally should be the exact same mission that you did when you played Michigan State at home. It's to go just physically abuse them, start fast, and go win this game handily.
Which guys are going to be the difference makers in doing that, Schlegs? Well,
offensive line wise, it's still there, right? So who do they got? They got their one DB, Newman, has four INTs. He's second on the team in tackles. They got a linebacker that leads their team in tackles. They got two guys that have sacks, like 4.5 and 6. Honestly, that's going to be a great challenge, man. Just keep Kyle McCord clean. Can we do that? Can we run the football? They are, let's see. I don't know. They're not very good on third down. If I recall, they're like 35%. So win the third down battle. Win the battles that you should be winning. And that's our defense versus their offense. Like, go do that. But then offensively, it's just continue to do what you did in that Michigan State game, right? You got to build off that momentum, which was a very clean football game. Kyle McCord, there you go. Another difference maker. Hey, guess what? Don't turn the ball over. Make the plays that you're supposed to make. Marvin's going to continue to get pushed for the Heisman. Make those plays. Trevion. And ultimately, here's the real difference maker in all of this. Remain healthy.
Right.
That's the thing, right? So you saw that in the Michigan State game. We didn't go out there and try to put up, 50 on them. No need to. It was 35-3 at halftime. Great. End up being 38-3. That's fine. Right. Get other guys in there and an opportunity to showcase what they got. That's the bone. Remember, development does not happen in the game. Development happens at practice. So once you're up like that, now you give a dog a bone and go out there and let's see what you can do with live bullets. And can you uphold that the standard is the standard? And they were able to do that where they blanked them in the second half. That's great. Right. That's what you should do without your best guys being on the field. So that's really the difference maker. Young guys stepping up. But number one most important thing, difference maker in this game, setting up for Michigan, is to walk out of that game healthy.
All right. That opportunity is coming on Saturday at 4:00. Hope everybody is ready. The last time in the Horseshoe this year. That is just still crazy to me. And probably the last time for that Heisman Trophy candidate that you mentioned as well, Schleg. So appreciate Marvin Harrison, appreciate the seniors, and appreciate one more opportunity, I guess, to watch Ohio State in the Horseshoe this season. I know that Anthony Schlegel will, and I will too.
Absolutely.
I appreciate Schlegs with all the insight as always on a Thursday on the Podcast Daily. For Schlegs, I'm Austin Ward. We'll talk to you later.